First off, congratulations on getting to the playoffs. I know you've gotten a terrific performance from your team this year. You get a share of the conference title, but win the tiebreaker in that regard. When you think back to the start of this season, what have you seen from your team in terms of the growth and development that allowed them to get to this point?
Just they just bought into the mentality that we're trying to get these kids to understand, and it's the hard work pays off. To be physical every single play, and just to be able to prepare, whether it's physically, mentally, and grow as a family. So I think our kids really bought into all that, and that's why we're in the position that we're in right now. And by the way, I think that I believe that they don't do co-champions in conferences anymore.
So you get it outright is what you're telling me then.
Yes.
So one thing that stood out about this year's version of the Panthers, and we know under Coach Botta, they were a really good team, but they've seemed to be more explosive here in 2022, especially offensively. You just have some guys who can make plays and get in the end zone seemingly on every single snap. How has that come to fruition?
Well, I think it's mostly because of the athletes that we have, Roman and Aiden and Zach, and I think Kyle DePill came in and did some great things. But, our offensive line has really grown and been doing a great job. So whenever you have an offensive line that gels and is physical, it allows for the skill players to show their talents as well. But, that and then they're really starting to understand we have a ton of plays and formations in our offense. And it takes some time for the kids to fully understand all the concepts that are going on. And because it's not written down anywhere, it's just in my head. So when they start to understand it and get to understand what I'm thinking and doing, then you start to see those results more often anyways.
Lance, one thing that has stood out about your team is that your first two losses in overtime, your team bounced back terrifically from. You were able to overcome those. You started the season with a tough one in double overtime against Greater Latrobe, and then you had that loss against Shaler area as well. How has your team been so resilient? And I'm sure you're confident, but can they do it for a third time after an overtime loss?
Yeah, I don't know if one ever leads to the results of the next one. I think every situation is different. So, in playoff football, in 5A is just tremendous. So, I think we got a great taste of what playoff football was going to be like last week against Penn Trafford, and I think that's why we went out there and really played everybody and tried to win that game so that our kids could understand what that's all about. But they just bounced back because that's their mentality they took on. They believe in themselves, they believe in their teammates, and whenever you have that belief and understanding, I think that you're able to push through hard times and overcome that.
You talked about the game against Penn Trafford. It was an interesting scenario because you were already in the postseason. The Warriors had to win to give themselves a chance to get in, and we kind of figured based on the math they likely would get in with a victory. But you played almost with the same urgency that they did, even though you had already secured that playoff spot. What really were your biggest takeaways from your team's performance against PT?
I thought our kids were very physical against a very physical football team. Penn Trafford has a very big line, and I liked how our kids came off the ball, and it was just a great game to be a part of. I thought both teams did some great things offensively, and both teams made the other offense struggle a little bit with their defensive play. So, Penn Trafford, I knew they were going to be a tough game. I knew that they were a good team. You look at their losses against very good football teams. So I got that was going to be a tough game.
Let's talk about the 5A bracket. Your team gets the number 3 seed. There's only 8 teams in this bracket, so you're going against number 6 Woodland Hills. How did the 3rd seed align with what maybe you thought it could be?
I knew that we deserved the home game. I knew that Pine Ridge has been coming on, and Bethel Park had a tremendous season. So I was thinking 3 or 4, and I really don't even know if it matters because I think they're trying to do matchups with somebody not in your conference. So whether we were at the 4 and got Woodland Hills or the 3 and got Woodland Hills, I felt like it was going to probably be them just because of how all the other matchups had to happen.
So what do you know about the Wolverines to this point? What stands out about them?
Team speed, aggressiveness. Those kids fly around to the ball defensively, offensively. They have a lot of weapons. They like to throw the ball vertically. Their young quarterback does a great job, and he's athletic. So you got to contain him. I know that he can get out of the pocket. So definitely going to be a challenge. Woodland Hills is that team every year. Might struggle a little bit throughout the season, but when it gets to the end of the year, they do a great job. And last year they almost upset Moon in the playoffs. So I think in the second round. So we know that we're in for a big test against Woodland Hills.
They were in your conference a year ago, correct?
Yes, they were.
Do you take a lot from your matchup against them last year?
Not too much. Every year's a new year. I mean, we're a whole different team than we were last year. And, we came out and we tried so many different things last year, formations and different types of personnel groupings last year that this year, we haven't had to do as much because everyone's starting to gel in the offense that we have. So I'm not taking too much from last year, but, I know Tim over there and what he does, and he's going to have his kids prepared. So we're just going to look at the films from this year and try to break down what they've been doing so far and try to put our guys in the best position for them to have success.
I know you said they have great team speed. What are the biggest keys for your team to score the victory?
Control the ball and not turn the ball over. We want to win that time of possession battle, and we want to take care of the football. If we do that, I think we could be in good shape. But we want to try to limit the explosive plays that they have. They have opportunities with so many different players to make big time plays. We want to try to limit that.
And lastly, I know as a coach, you're focused on this matchup, and yet from my perspective, this is going to be such a fun bracket because it is so loaded. It's only 8 teams, so it's smaller than normal. And yet you really have the feel that just about any team could make a run. Is that kind of the feel that 5A really is wide open?
Yeah, I think that every team has an opportunity to win. Just about matchups. Sometimes, one team could beat a certain team, but as you can see this year, if they don't have the right matchups, you could lose to a team that the other team lost to prior. So I think it's all going to depend on the matchups and the health of the teams at this point in the year.
Well, Lance, thanks so much for doing this. Congratulations on getting to the playoffs, and good luck on Friday against the Wolverines.
Thanks. I appreciate it.